Hi, this is Mark Taylor and the Education on Fire podcast. This week, my interview, ICT with Mr.P, has been split into two. So we had some great conversations about how technology and the hardware of iPads and laptops are used in schools and all the really important online safety aspects and the way education is going and how technology fits into that. It was a brilliant conversation with him, and I wanted to make sure that you got a full chance to listen to it in the best possible way. So we split this interview into two parts. So today you have part one and then concluding on Friday. I hope you enjoy it. Hello and welcome to the Education on Fire podcast. The place where we share creative and inspiring learning in our schools. Season 2, Episode 23. Hello and welcome back to the Education on Fire podcast with me, Mark Taylor. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Lee Parkinson, who's a primary school teacher who specialises in the use of technology to raise standards across the curriculum. His training in INSET provides teachers with a wealth of knowledge on the most engaging and inspiring ways to improve standards in literacy, numeracy and the new primary curriculum using modern technology. Thanks very much for joining me today, Lee.
No worries.
Can you sort of just expand on that intro and just tell us a little bit about sort of your teaching background and how you sort of ICT became your sort of speciality?
Well, I've been teaching now for sort of 10 years or so. For the past 5 years, I've been working part-time at my school and also leading training here, there and everywhere around the country and beyond. And my school, Davian Primary, I started there as an NQT. At the end of the year, for our Leavers Assembly, I sort of made a little video, just some pictures of the Year 6 and their time through school with some music. And that impressed the head teacher so much, he made me IT coordinator. And so for the next sort of few years, I looked at developing that, and it got to a point where I was sort of looking around at sort of moving on and maybe looking at deputy and headship, and then myself and my wife found out we were expecting triplets, so that sort of put that on hold, and we welcomed the three beautiful kids, to which my head teacher then sat me down. He said, look, given your circumstances and given where you want to be, because I think my head teacher is absolutely fantastic at developing the staff and being supportive and letting them thrive with their sort of specialities. He sort of said, look, what I think will work best for you given your circumstances, if we bring you out of the classroom and you can start covering PPA whole school, because at that time I'd only sort of taught in Key Stage 2. So for me to get good, decent experience down EYFS and Key Stage 1 and sort of see the progression whole school from more of a senior leadership point of view. And he said, but you'll have the opportunity to really develop your specialism in IT, to which I replied, that's great, love to do that, but I'm going to need some equipment. So we ended up buying a class set of iPads, and that was sort of the start of the journey. So as soon as we got the iPads, I sort of quickly realised that everything that we were making on there, the children were creating on those iPads, we couldn't stick in a book. And so we started our school blog, davium.primaryblogger.co.uk, which we've carried on ever since, because it's just been a fantastic platform for engaging parents and giving children a real purpose with their learning, but also teaching the children how to be responsible and positive digital citizens. A couple of months after that, I started my own teacher blog, mrparkinsonict.blogspot.co.uk, and started my Twitter account at ICT_Mr.P, and my Facebook page, facebook.com/ICT with Mr. P, I think it is, and it's just sort of got bigger, and people were sort of reading the ideas and that sort of thing, and it got bigger and bigger, and I started to dip my toe into a few of the teach meets, and it got to about April, Easter time that year, and I got a direct message from Alan Pete, who is or has been one of the my probably ultimate teacher hero. I mean, he came into our school and did some writing training 6 years ago now, I think, and it just completely transformed my outlook on how to teach writing and English in general. And so he got in touch and sort of said, oh, you've been recommended to us as a potential trainer. would you like to come and have a chat about things, and we can come and watch one of your sessions? And yeah, I got a phone call off him then saying, yeah, really impressed. We think you'd be great. We'd love to bring you on board. And it wasn't bring me on board to work for them. It was more, sort of supporting me to start my own business and work with them. And I always remember, I talk about this a lot on my training when we talk about risk taking and sort of the growth mindset type idea. I remember sat there at the kitchen table with my wife and the triplets running around in nappies thinking, can we take this risk? Can we go, can I go part-time, knowing that it's not going to be a guarantee that I'll get schools booking me in? I remember saying to my wife, I said, I'd much rather try it, and if I fail, at least I know I've given it my best shot than, 20 years down the line looking back and saying what if. And very glad I made that decision, because I'm in a lovely position now where I'm getting to visit so many amazing schools all around the country and just see my ideas being used by classrooms all over the world, which is still now just incredible. But also still get to go back to my school each week and work with those children, which for me is the most important thing. I think a lot of people who get into the sort of training consultancy side of things, can see. And I know that there's some that sort of see it as a way out of the classroom. For me, it's not about that. I want to be in the classroom as much as I possibly can. I'm just in a very, very lucky position where I now get to share ideas and strategies and approaches with teachers all over the world.
And I think that the key thing there is the fact that the consultancy enables you to share those fantastic sort of inspiring ideas, which can then grow, like you say, around the country and around the world. But
absolutely, yeah.
There's something about the relationship that you develop with the class over a period of time, over that whole academic year, isn't there? Which you can't replicate in that way. And I think being able to combine the two things is a really special way to be able to live your life.
Oh, absolutely. And I think I'm in a very, very lucky position, but I think I'm very, very thankful to the school and the leadership at my school in the fact that, they recognised, that I was going in this way, and they didn't stop me. They've always supported me, and it's been great, because I know there's plenty of leadership teams that would have gone, no, you either go or you stay, and then that's it. Whereas my sort of school have been really sort of flexible and supportive, and without them I wouldn't have been able to sort of make this step. So yeah, it sort of works both ways, really.
And it's a great thing to hear, because this podcast is really to support teachers and people in education, to sort of hear that, like you say, sometimes people think it has to be a certain way, whether it's the way you teach something or it's the way that you come across. And what's great to hear there is, like you said, the support of the school and being able to support you in your sort of career development at the same time as utilising your skills, and just knowing that having the right conversation with the right person within your school, things don't always have to look a certain way. You can actually create your own environment, and I think it's not only positive for yourself, it's also positive for the children, because if that's the ethos of the school and what's running through the heart of the school, that can only be a positive thing that rubs off on them as well.
Oh, absolutely. And the children love nothing more than finding out where I've been, because on a lot of the training that I do, I share, the children's examples of work, and they love seeing that their work is being seen by schools and teachers all over the world. So, like I say, it does work both ways. And I'm in school tomorrow. Really looking forward to working with the children there tomorrow. So yeah, it sort of work. Yeah, I'm just very, very lucky in the position that I'm in, and it is quite hard work, all the travelling that I have to do, but it is very, very rewarding when you see schools using the ideas and the impact that it's then having on children's learning. It's it's amazing.
And you said it sort of really started with the school blog and then sort of expanded through your blog. And do you find that because the blogs have something tangible in terms of this project or this thing that I'm writing about has an effect now, that the children really sort of warm to that and respond to that because it's current and it's in the moment and it's something they're doing which has a real immediate impact, rather than we're learning to write or we're learning to read for the future? And do you think the modern technology in that way is really supporting that sort of present mindset?
Yeah, I think for me, everything that I do with the children is I try and make it purposeful for them. And when you're utilising the internet in a positive way, the children just respond so well to it. So actually having a platform where you're putting children's work on there for it to be then seen by a global audience, just gets such a positive reaction from the children. They want their work to be perfect. It's not you then saying, I want this, I want that. It's the children saying, what do I need to do for my work to be the best it can be? Because this piece of work, when it goes on the school blog, is going to be seen by, the hundreds of thousands of people that will see it, which is what we've done now. So the blog in our school has really, developed things in three ways. So because we've linked it to our school Twitter account and our school Facebook page, the engagement we get from parents is fantastic. We've used it then to reduce the amount of photocopying that we're doing. So we're actually using the technology to sort of save us a lot of money. I think that we were looking at it this time last year, and we've sort of reduced the photocopying pretty much by half, I think, or near enough. I mean, there's other things that we've been doing, but the blogging and the Facebook page is definitely, and Twitter has definitely contributed to that. The fact that the children are actually taught how to blog themselves. So lower down the school, if we're talking EYFS Key Stage 1, it's very much the teacher in charge of it, but they're having those conversations with the children about, this is going to go onto our blog, it has to be the best it can be because it's going to be there forever. So laying the foundations of, when you post things online, they stay there, but not doing that in a negative way that I seem to see with lots of teachers. We had Internet Safety Day the other month, and I actually made a video on my Facebook page about my frustration with certain things with Internet Safety Day. In our school, we don't celebrate Internet Safety Day because we see that every day is Internet Safety Day, because children are using technology more than they ever have done before. In fact, majority of children will be using some sort of technology day in, day out, whether it's in school or at home. So we recognise that, and we think, it's sort of our responsibility not to be encouraging children to use certain social media platforms, as they do have age restrictions, but educating the children about them, so when they are old enough to use them, they know how to do it responsibly. So I came across a great quote the other day about social media, which was, I can't remember who it was by, but it said that we don't have a choice about using social media. The only choice we have is how well we do it. So that's what I sort of say to children. You've got a choice when you use the internet. You either use it to give yourself opportunities, get jobs, careers, or you use it to stop yourself getting opportunities, jobs and careers. But when they get to sort of Key Stage 2, they get given a username, they get given a password, and then they can log into the blog on whatever device they're using in school, whatever device they're using at home, and they can write content. So they can actually use it as a way of sharing ideas, stories, doing book reviews, whatever homework task the teacher might set. However, the way that we've got it set up is that everything then has to be approved by an adult, whether that's a teacher, a TA, or if you get some parents involved as well. So it actually gives children a sort of safe platform to use the internet, but also learn from mistakes without that actually then having other consequences. Because you read stories all the time now about children or young people or young adults who, might post something, send a tweet, send a Facebook post, and then that ends up stopping them getting a job, or and we just constantly try and talk about that with the children. So it frustrates me when you come across so many schools who block everything, block the internet, I was in a school the other week where they blocked Google, and I said, why have you blocked Google? And they're like, we don't know what they're going to search for. And I might teach them. How else are they going to learn? How would we expect children to be good writers if we said put the pen down, or good readers and say close that book? You wouldn't expect children to become good swimmers if you never let them go in water. So it is such a current issue. It's such an important one as well now, because technology is so prevalent. And I think just generally right across education, we need to recognise this more, and we need to be embracing it a lot more. There are certain arguments that would say the focus on, or the over focus on English and maths means that teachers don't necessarily spend as much time on the technology side of things, whereas actually it sort of links in, doesn't it? This idea of digital literacy, for me, it's just literacy. Technology has always defined the way in which we communicate and the way in which we access texts and this and that. So Yeah, we've just got to try and embrace it as much as possible, really, is what I'm sort of trying to say.
I think that's right, and it's all about focus, isn't it? It's all about attitude. It's all about you don't say don't talk to anybody because you might get someone telling you something you don't want to hear, or you might get bullied. You say talk to people, be open, and then if you get yourself into some kind of trouble or you experience something you don't like, you then give them the skills to be able to protect themselves and support themselves. And I think the technology is exactly the same thing. I had a conversation with my daughter recently after she'd had an e-safety day or whatever it was in her school, and there have been some issues going on, and I said, if you look at it this way, we don't say you're never allowed to go out of the house because being outside or crossing the road is dangerous. What we do is we teach you how to cross the road safely, how to be outside safely, and then you go and embrace the outside world, but we give you the skills you need to do it, and I see the internet in exactly the same way, and I think, as you rightly said, that just is key,
Yeah, it's not going anywhere, and we need to be doing it more regularly. I think we need to be discussing it and talking about it. But if that's part of how you're evidencing and how you're sharing children's learning, week in, week out, you're going to be having those conversations every week as well. So it's not left then to the one day where all the teachers then do one activity on that day about the internet. You're talking about each and every day, and there are just so many positives from it as well. We've just had so many examples of where the children have done some amazing work, and from sharing it online, the children have just had so many amazing responses from different companies or different authors, poets. So it really gives the children a platform to write for, or to share their learning with a real global audience, which it can have such a positive impact, not just on the quality of the work the children are producing, but those digital literacy skills that we've just been mentioning.
And also, it's also a modern way of taking yourself out of the classroom, isn't it? Because while it used to be a question of we're going to get on a trip and that sort of thing, which of course still happens nowadays. But in a purely academic side, you're taking yourself out of the classroom and putting yourself online and sharing and being part of the wider community in a whole new way. And I think that's a really exciting thing. And like I say, the conversations you can then have with the community, with companies, with people in the field that you're studying, like say whether it's an author or a poet, I think it's a fantastic thing, and just the instant or relatively instant response you can get, it's such a brilliant opportunity.
Yeah, completely agree. So yeah, a lot of my training sort of encourages schools to embrace the internet, embrace social media. Don't be scared about getting a school Facebook page because you might have had a couple of parents who've said negative things before. They're going to do that. The parents are going to do that because they don't think you're going to find out. Put yourself on Facebook. You're in control then of the vision of your school on that social media platform. And with our school Facebook page, we make it very clear it's a one-way communication tool with parents. If parents air any negative views, they'll be blocked and banned. And the response we've had from parents has been incredibly positive, and they just love it. And whether we like this or not, the majority of parents, they're on Facebook, they're scrolling through, so we see it as a way of shoving it in their face, saying, look, this is what your child's done today, talk to them about it, because, and generally speaking, the parents at our school are they're amazing, they're really, really supportive. But I think the general picture now is we're getting more and more parents who are sort of money rich, time poor, which actually puts a lot more pressure on teachers to not just look after children academically, but emotionally and as well. And I was speaking to a school the other day where they're having a lot of issues with things like WhatsApp and Instagram, and the parents then are looking at the school to solve the problems, and I'm saying, well, why are the parents not accepting responsibility? If it's the parents who are giving children the devices, there's got to. So a lot of schools now putting on support for parents, and we had it with our stepson. We found this with our stepson now. He's had a mobile phone for a couple of years to begin with. We sort of just left him to his own devices, and then we found that he was just getting more and more withdrawn. He'd come in from school, he'd go into his bedroom, and that was it. So we sort of discussed it and thought, well, actually, there's no one showing him how to find the balance with that's the biggest issue with a lot of teenagers now and young adults is no one has ever no one's teaching these young people how to find the balance with technology. And it's not that technology is a bad thing. It's not, it can be an incredibly powerful tool, but it can also become addictive. And I think there are a lot of children who are growing up and, finding it more difficult to actually engage face to face with people, turning to their screens. But that, I think, comes down to just a lack of education. It's just, and I think the way that the technology has grown so rapidly, sort of over the last decade or so, as educators and as parents, I suppose we've found it tricky to keep up with that. But it's our response, both for me as a teacher and a parent, to to identify that and actually teach. So he can have some time on his phone at night, but he's in our company doing that, and then we make sure we take it off him before he goes to bed. And he said, well, what am I going to do about my alarm clock? So we bought him an alarm clock,
One of those old-fashioned things that they don't know anything about.
But it's important that he understands there's got to be a balance, because if we just left him to his own devices, we'd never see him. He'd be in his bedroom, because that's appealing, isn't it? They've done studies now to show that the interaction you get through your phone can release the same sort of addictive hormone that you get from gambling and drinking and these sort of things. So, as great as I think technology is, the one thing I am saying to a lot of teachers now is what we've got to teach children is they have to find the balance. They have to know when to pick up a device and create content and share and communicate and that sort of thing. But also, when they're in the company of people, that whether it's family, friends, whatever it is, to actually put the technology down and engage that way. So my sort of mantra, my sort of saying now is, with children, we want them to be masters of technology and not slaves to it. That's what I talk about all the time. And one of the biggest ways, one of the biggest steps is getting children to understand the balance.
Thank you for listening to the Education on Fire podcast. For more information, please go to educationonfire.com.